Okay, so some of our new leaders, NAACP President, Ms. Wendy Fields, Lucin Church of the Savior, Pastor Nikki Smith, North Presbyterian Church, Pastor Chuck Mordyke, Pine Highland Presbyterian, Pastor John Best, St. Barnabas Episcopal Church, Priest Mike Woods, and Westwood United Methodist Senior Pastor, Pastor Sean Kidd. So we think, grateful for those new leaders. Our Isaac new leadership, although when I read this, it was kind of funny. I said, really, this person doesn't seem like a new leader, right? But we are pleased to have each of you leading parts of our Isaac family. We're also grateful of the commitment you bring to our work together, building the beloved community. And a new member of our executive committee, which we will welcome in 2019, we welcome Reverend Jocelyn Mason, Senior Minister of Unity of Kalamazoo, to our Isaac Executive Committee. And I will turn it over to Dr. Davis.
Thank you so much. And so it's an honor for me to be able to talk a little bit about our consultants, our awesome consultants from 2019. First on the screen here, we have Patrice, now Vice Mayor Patrice Griffin, who helped us so very much with the areas of cultural competency, outcomes, marketing, engagement, and also equity work. When I first met Vice Mayor Patrice, what we said to each other was, "You look familiar." We both said it. And so I've been so happy to be able to work more closely with her with the awesome housing work and the policy brief that she wrote. She did a phenomenal job last year helping us increase our impact around marketing and really talking about who we are and showing who we are when we were out in public. A wonderful job with evaluations and outcomes, helping with the poverty tallying results for the Poverty Task Force survey, created the survey QR code. We had never done that before, so we were able to have surveys that folks could get on their phones at that time and go ahead and send that survey in right away to increase, our feedback. She handled all of the GVI surveys, which was awesome as well. And then helping with our events to ensure that all of the work that we're doing, whether it's events, whether they are the task forces, that we're being culturally competent, not only in word, but also in deed. And also she did an awesome job. And we still are doing work around the GARE work, the housing equity work. And so a special thank you to Vice Mayor Patrice for her awesome work and consulting with us last year. So then I also I have the privilege of being able to talk a little bit about, I call him Brother Ed Genesis, who helped us last year with community healing, listening engagement, and then mobilizing. And I first met Brother Ed at a GVI informational session in 2019. And it didn't take long for me to realize what an awesome community leader that he was, how much he loved our community, and also the awesome engagement that he was already doing. And he is an awesome community organizer with Michigan United. Something that was so wonderful as we started looking at our Isaac work, even if the work seems like we're doing it well, it's always good to keep looking at how to improve it and how to make it more equitable and more inclusive. And so I'm just so very grateful that he took the lead on our community engagement and listening that summer. It was something new and different that we hadn't done before, to where we really wanted community members who were impacted to be able to lead that work of community listening. So being able to listen in your own community versus somebody who does not live in your community coming in and asking you questions and listening. And so that was just awesome work. He's been sitting on the Intimate Partner Violence Coalition meetings with officials, elected officials as well. Of course, did awesome work with the Black and Brown Unity Weekend that we had last year, and facilitating awesome circles of healing, and then also helping us with GVI and looking at GVI through a culturally competent lens. so that we can do our work better. So a special thank you to Brother Ed for his awesome work. And we're so happy that he's continuing his work of community engagement with us this year. And then lastly here, I have Elizabeth Lily Wolf, Elizabeth, who helped us with the Healing Whiteness through Cultural Somatics. I first met Elizabeth through Erase, and last year as we facilitated a healing circle together, I believe it was around February, we were just talking about the work that she was doing, the work that I was envisioning for our white brothers and sisters and family members. And there was just this connection of cultural healing around whiteness, and also in really thinking about what white allyship looks like and how to deepen that work. I know that she, and this will be talked about a little bit later on, did an 8-month cohort. She had 2 cohorts for over 8 months where she worked on mindfulness techniques, nervous system regulation, anti-racist, identity development, also looking at what folks have lost as they have been in America and been a white American, what they have lost around culture, and then capacity building around holding attention and responsibility and compassion. And so this will be talked about more as well, but we're so thankful that she will be doing some healing whiteness work with us again, and we'll be working this year on some healing work for Jewish individuals as well. And so we're really looking forward to that. And we thank Elizabeth. And a special thank you again to Vice Mayor Patrice, Brother Ed, and Elizabeth. We appreciate you all so much. So right here, and I'm going to pass this off after this slide here, we wanted to say congratulations to Reverend Rachel. We were so happy that Reverend Rachel, who is the minister at People's Church, was chosen in 2019 to sit on the board of the city's Foundation for Excellence. And she is the 3rd Isaac clergy member that has been chosen. A wonderful individual with social justice, you know, at her heart and at the heart and actions of what she's doing. We were so thankful that this year that she reached out. It might have been the year before, I'm sorry, but that she reached out to all the task forces. She came and she listened, and she wanted to ensure that the voices from the task forces were lifted and were heard as she goes into these Foundation for Excellence meetings. And so a special thank you to Reverend Rachel. And then for the second bullet here, we're just so happy that Isaac has had a representation on the Foundation for Excellence board. Reverend Matthew Zerwick, he was in this position before he moved to a different location. Reverend Dennison is still on the board, and a special congratulations in 2020 to Stephanie Hoffman, who is on the board now as well. And so just so happy for that Isaac family representation. Thank you, Elder King.
Sure, you're welcome to keep going. No, so just some quick highlights of 2019. So some of the task forces know that are going to go through this, some of their specific work that they've done, but just to touch on a few highlights, our banquet that we had in May was especially inspiring. Certainly our keynote speaker, Mimoa, it was amazing, just nothing but great feedback and excitement that came from that banquet. Our task force's work has just been amazing and impressive. This entire year, they have just done amazing work. Our partnership with TRHT, again, Truth, Racial Healing, and Transformation, has become even stronger. And so we are grateful for that. We are excited about that collaboration and look forward to continued work with TRHT. Again, as Charlotte, Dr. Davis just went over, our team grew even stronger with our 3 new consultants. I mean, we are just better together. And so we are just grateful for the work of the 3 consultants that we are blessed to be able to work with. Our issues convention in October was especially powerful, choosing anti-racism and gun violence prevention as our top priorities, and reaffirming our work of affordable housing and group violence intervention. And so that was awesome, that issues convention. And then finally, one of our most exciting achievements was our endowment fund achieved our goal way ahead of schedule. So we know we had that goal to raise $50,000 within 3 years or so, and we were able to accomplish that. So thank you, everyone, for your generosity and helping us to be able to achieve that goal. So now I would turn it into the hands of some other folks who can talk about these things more specifically. And first is Kara, I believe, to talk about the banquet, and then they can just flow through after that.
Thank you, Elder King. I have the honor of discussing our 2019 banquet. Our theme was Hold Fast to Love and Justice, and our keynote speaker was Mee Moa. It was an amazing evening, and it was attended by 525 people, and it was on May 18th. As the theme of the annual gathering, an amazing evening was attended by 525 people on May 18th with Hold Fast to Love and Justice as the theme of the annual gathering, supporting Isaac work and celebrating the beloved community. As I said, our keynote speaker, Mee Moa, she's a Racial Healing Circle practitioner and the W.K. Kellogg Foundation Consulting. Her inspiring story was about her as a refugee from Laos who rose to serve as the chair of the Minnesota Senate Judiciary Committee. Her journey of personal discernment to her liberation and loving work for racial healing and justice. This is a love journey, she said. Join me. Let us not be fueled by hate or fear, but by the love of one human family. She asked all of us to tell everyone near you, I love you, and there's nothing you can do about it. The ballroom filled with laughter as the crowd responded to her request. Then we all gave her a standing ovation. Our wonderful performers were Danza Folkloria from El Concilio, and Nick the drummer, and Jesslyn. Our 2019 Leader of the Year, Dr. Regina Nelson. Our 2019 Congregation of the Year, St. Luke's Episcopal Church. Our 2019 Public Ally of the Year, Innovation Grant Work Group. Our 2019 Ally of the Year, Open Doors of Kalamazoo. Our 2019 Lifetime Achievement Award went to Elizabeth Upjohn Mason. Our 2019 Lifetime Achievement also went to Albert Dixon. And these are a few pictures from our 2019 banquet.
Okay, so this is Emily Hazel. I'm one of the co-chairs of the Anti-Racism Task Force, along with Al Dixon, who Kara just introduced as one of our Lifetime Achievement Award winners of last year. But the goal of the Anti-Racism Task Force over the past year has really been to further the beloved community. And so we were really focusing on combating the false narrative of white supremacy that's reinforced by systemic racism. So a lot of the work that we did was in collaboration with a number of community partners, and we co-hosted a number of different workshops that aimed at building trusting and accountable relationships between people across cultures, raising awareness about implicit bias, generational trauma, and systemic racism, and offering opportunities for action. So one of the major events that were hosted were TRHT Racial Healing Circles. I participated in one of these where there was just white people were challenged to share their story, not just sit back and listen or observe. and also reminded that it's really important to be vulnerable and share with each other, and that's really how relationships are built. Another one of the workshops hosted was understanding the impact of racism on infant mortality. This was hosted at Unity of Kalamazoo by Cradle. And so we were really talking about the really drastic difference between Black infant mortality rate and white infant mortality rate in Kalamazoo specifically, and some of the programming that is being done to address it, as well as what is more that needs to happen. So some more photos of it. The executive director of the YWCA and Cradle was there speaking. Another workshop, Bugs in Our Brain, Changing the World by Changing Our Thinking, focused on implicit bias, was facilitated by Beth Washington, also at Unity of Kalamazoo. Shout out to Reverend Mason for hosting a lot of these workshops for Isaac. Then we partnered again with Erase on a health equity workshop at St. Luke's, which is kind of supplemental to the 2.5-day understanding and analyzing systemic racism, but with a focus obviously on health equity. So healing whiteness through cultural somatics. This is where Dr. Charley was talking about Elizabeth Wolfe. So this happened in 2019. I was in one of the cohorts, and then it's happening again this year. So white people are really engaging and talking about trauma and how it affects us as white people, and how white supremacy is really negatively impacting everyone involved, not just the people who are not kind of in the box or normalized in our society. There was a dinner and fellowship with Miss Sahida, and lives were enriched by her vulnerability and story sharing at First Congregational Church. And so just kind of recapping, the sessions were really focused on healing, anti-racism, and self-transformation through education, awareness, and deep listening to better equip the Isaac community with tools that we can use to transform institutions, really focusing on using cultural competent and equitable lenses. And we continue to work to create opportunities to transform the community members, to build resistance against systemic racism, because it's not an easy thing to do. We need that resilience and resistance, and to organize around policies that support racial justice and equity, again, as we build the beloved community.
Good evening, everybody. I'm off mute. So, and I want to say this is the best virtual annual meeting I have ever attended with Isaac. It's the best. So at the Isaac Issues Convention on October 29, 2019, the Housing Task Force reported on our work. Although redlining technically ended in 1968, we still experience the inherent effects of the policy in home ownership and rental housing. Right here in Kalamazoo, families and individuals who have vouchers from the Vote Yes for Kids millage are being denied housing based on their source of income.
So, as we know, the Universal Declaration of Human Rights was signed in 1948 by 92 nations, including the United States at that time. And it declared, among many things, housing as a basic human right. So together, we've been working together, engaging in data collection and deep learning. We've done workshops for local municipalities, commissioners and staff, as well as nonprofits on healing through understanding the local history of racism and segregation. I know some of you all were probably there in attendance. Our speakers were really powerful. Dr. Michelle Johnson, librarian Matt Smith, Gun Lake tribal leader John Shagnabi, and Patrice Griffin, who is now the vice mayor, as you know. And from there, we saw how deeply connected discrimination and homelessness was, and how racism limits access to housing options at many levels, kind of going beyond the issues of affordability. Um, there's another picture. So these are some pictures that from our event. There was a great turnout from public officials as well as housing providers in the area. We worked to integrate getting relationship building and discussion happening before we delve into the work, really trying to make sure that healing is centered in all of our conversations. We've also used that same model in order to have smaller discussions with folks when things have gotten tense amongst partners. So in using the healing methodologies is really important for us. And here's the second one that was more open to the public, but still had a lot of housing providers and officials in attendance.
So at this point, it's been 2 to 3 years now, but I've been working closely with Lana Lewis, Dr. Charlay, Stephanie Hoffman, and Andrew Taprandra on ordinance language for our new housing equity ordinance that we are so excited, and we know that we'll see the new version of that just in a few days now on the 20th of this month. But to get to that point, we had engaged over 2,500 people, including housing voucher providers and landlords, as well as people who are experiencing or who have experienced housing crisis. We reviewed the best practices from across the country, looked at models that exist in current cities here in Michigan, the ACLU, American Civil Liberties Union, and PRAC, Policy and Race Research Action Council out of DC also helped in this process. This housing equity ordinance is going to reduce discrimination, increase protected classes of people, eliminate blanket policy so that applications will be reviewed, and improve enforcement by creating, at this time, it was a Human Rights Commission, and currently it is a Civil Rights Commission, but the same purpose. So the same way we needed you all up until that point, we're going to need you as we continue to drive this home, and all of you who believe in housing equity to turn out and show community support at our upcoming events and commission meetings.
Isaac is extremely thankful that the City of Kalamazoo resourced us to be able to hold focus groups, listening sessions around housing inequalities with our community members impacted the most. Here are 2 lived experiences that were shared. My experience looking for housing in Kalamazoo is not a good one at all. I've cried and I've been really mad at the fact that everywhere you go, there is an application fee. You don't even know you're denied. They don't write you back. You know because of the silence. They want you to make 2 or 3 times more than what the rent is. It's crazy. And that was from a Latinx grandmother. What's your past got to do with it? You know what I'm saying? Everyone on this earth has made mistakes, convicting us of what we have done in the past. I am a man of 65, and you are still convicting me. I got out in 1993. They are still convicting me. Focus Group Senior. Thank you to the Isaac Leadership Board for unanimously approving the continuation of this work. And our thanks also to you, the congregations who steadfastly held that every man, woman, boy, and girl has a right to a home that is accessible, affordable, and safe. I challenge us all to continue to be a part of this change. And with that challenge tonight, I would encourage and implore everyone in this meeting to go to the Isaac website and sign again and again, and maybe new signatures, and support the housing equity ordinance. It's one of the most important parts of this work that we are doing, and it will make changes in our community for generations to come. We are doing something tremendous, and it will impact everybody. And Kalamazoo is just the city to do that. We appreciate you. Thank you.
Hi, everyone. This is Regina Nelson, and I was co-chair of the Anti-Poverty Task Force along with Nicholas Baxter. In 2019, our task force focused on learning about the causes and impact of poverty in Kalamazoo County. And then we went out to find out what policies and practices are already going on to help decrease poverty. So there was an initiative going on at that time to raise the minimum wage. And so we helped with that by helping to get collect signatures to get that issue on the ballot. It was since then moved to the legislator, but we were part of the ballot initiative. We also learned from our partners Momentum about the great workforce development work they were doing to help people get jobs, and jobs that weren't just entry-level jobs, but providing a ladder for them to move up and earn a living wage. We also wanted to collect information from everybody in the public, and we disseminated a survey at our banquet just to find out who was impacted by poverty and what their thoughts were. We also talked to our legislators, Sean McCain and John Hoadley, to find out how does the state budget impact poverty, and how can we raise awareness with the public to find out how they can advocate for a budget that provides assistance to people who are working their way out of poverty. So they held a budget forum for Kalamazoo County so people could learn where the budget funds were going to and how to advocate for a budget that supports this initiative. We were also encouraged to get the word out through Osher Lifelong Learning Institute by offering a class that I taught on learning about the causes and impact of poverty in Kalamazoo County. And people there were learning about how the average person experiences poverty, and then what they could do as far as volunteering for organizations that help people who are getting out of poverty and donating their funds as well. Our task force ended in 2019. However, our work is still closely linked to the housing task force work because affordable housing is a key component of people getting out of poverty, and also with the anti-racism task force, because we know that employers who are aware of or who have cultural bias may not hire people who need jobs. And so the work that the anti-racism task force is also helping this initiative. Thank you.
Hello, my name is Rick O'Million. I'm one of the co-chairs of the Gun Violence Prevention Task Force. These pictures that are on the slide, I'm just looking at what we're looking at here, are from the 2019 Service of Remembrance and Action held at Galilee Baptist Church with Isaac, Kalamazoo NAACP, Moms Demand Action, the Everytown Survivor Network, and Coalition for Common Ground, working together to try to bring as many victims and survivors of gun violence in Kalamazoo area to come and join together and to talk about our loved ones that were taken by gun violence, be able to say their names, and to have some time to talk about some actions that we could take at that point in 2019 to change what had happened to our loved ones. We talked a lot about as you can see on the screen, the statistics about gun violence, a lot of information from Everytown for gun safety, excuse me. Actually, the 52% of the population that say they've experienced gun violence, that can be as high as 60%, depending on the survey that's done. We all know stories in our communities and in our country too. Mass shootings, everyday gun violence. And since we've had this Service of Remembrance in 2019, the face of gun violence in Kalamazoo area has shifted and changed, and leading us into where we're at now in 2020. in 1 month, there are more gun deaths by gunshot in the US than any other industrialized nation. In fact, in February, it's significant to have the Service of Remembrance in February, because as of February 1st each year, that's significant as the date that the amount of gun deaths in the United States surpassed any other country, civilized, industrialized nation for the whole year. We go past that number for the second and third countries in terms of gun violence victims. So we hold that service every year. These are some pictures from 2019. We had, as you can see in the bottom right corner, John Hoadley was there. Wendy Fields helped us organize the service at Galilee and also through the NAACP. The young lady next to John is Celeste Kanperwala, who was a 2018 Everytown Survivor Network Fellow. And she had training and came to talk to us as a survivor of gun violence and what that meant to her and her family and what she was working on to change that in the United States, or in Michigan particularly. She's from the Washtenaw, Ann Arbor area, and her father committed suicide, took his life with a gun. I think she was in her early 30s, the day before her birthday, about 10, 15 years ago. So she talked, and the amazing thing that happened is there were people in the audience that came kind of in the background, and they also spoke up because of Celeste's courage in telling her story. They also talked about family members that they had never talked about that had taken their lives with a gun out of frustration and depression. So it was a really powerful moment. We spent a lot of time, there are some pictures too, where we were able to meet in the fellowship hall afterwards, victims and survivors, and talk and learn about what actions we could take about gun violence in our community and in our state. And Dr. Scott has always been very gracious in hosting the events. Hopefully we'll have something this next year. Maybe it'll be a Zoom meeting, but we will talk about victims of gun violence. In 2019, after the Service of Remembrance, there were quite a few well-known stories of gun violence in the Kalamazoo area that occurred afterwards, and that's still going on today. The face of gun violence just shifts around different places, different stories.
Okay. Back in not that long ago, back in 2012, Isaac was able to secure David Kennedy to come and speak to us about the group violence intervention that he authored and got started. And he was able to come and speak to our city leaders as well as be a speaker at our banquet that year. And stemming from that, the group violence intervention was started after Isaac asked for a commitment from our Kalamazoo Department of Public Safety. Since that time, when Chief Hadley was here, Chief Hadley made the commitment and started working on the portion of GVI that the police department has to get in place by restructuring some things within the department. And Isaac has been pushing for this since that commitment was made. This strategy is based on the fact that about 3% of the population in any given city are the people that are actually committing violence in the city. So those folks are identified, and brought into a call-in, is what we call it. And at that call-in, the community, the police, social services are all there, and we all tell them that the violence has to stop. And from that, we offer them help to make changes in their lives and to turn their lives around. So in the last year, well, we've had 3, I believe, call-ins so far since all of this started. We celebrated our first GVI graduate through the Momentum program at Urban Alliance. We implemented a call-in evaluation and have also made changes to the format of the call-in to make it more culturally competent, and made some changes to make it, I think, more comfortable for everyone in attendance. We've been able to deepen the community input and cultural competency again. We have more to do. It's a continuous improvement project. Every time we have any kind of interaction, we talk about how we can make things better. GVI was also featured on the cover of Encore magazine with a nice article, which we really appreciated. We are currently trying to get more folks involved, and more folks aware of what the strategy is entailed to do. We presented progress of this strategy at the Isaac Issues Convention, and we held a GVI team informational forum with parole and probation officers. We have increased contacts for services and resources, and our new service lead is Urban Alliance, which is a perfect fit for this strategy because they work with they already work with folks that are in the population that we serve through GVI, and are able to offer them social services, job programs, and that sort of thing. We have hired a new GVI coordinator, who is Michael Wilder. Michael and I both attended GVI University in New York a few years ago, and Michael was really meant to do this work. He's a wonderful person. He is a former drug dealer who has completely turned his life around, and has been on the ground doing work with regard to violence in the neighborhoods for a long time. And now he's able to put that experience into play as our new GVI coordinator.
Thank you. So we just wanted to talk a little bit here, and we'll be able to show some pictures just about, we call it the beloved community work and the healing and transformation work that we've been doing here in Isaac. Unfortunately, in society over the past few years, we've seen violence towards individuals who who fall into the marginalized groups, whether that's based on religion or based on race. We've seen that spike, and we've been having conversations, and the conversations have been, what do you need? What do you need from us? What can we do, depending upon who's talking? And so we're really happy that we've been able to have these conversations, because it's really important to not only use the word ally, but to ask the group that you're trying to be an ally towards, what do you need from me, and how can I best stand into my allyship? And so we've had a number of events that we'll look at in just a second here, in hopes of helping us learn more about cultures that are not our own, and also to talk less and listen more, as to, again, how we can be better allies. And so just really quickly, we'll see the awesome Intro to Judaism 2-part course that was taught by Rabbi Schicker. We'll also look at the Black and Brown Unity and Healing Weekend. We've all already seen the Toward a Deeper Understanding of Internalized Racist Superiority and workshop facilitated by Erase. And that was a workshop that was meant for individuals, white individuals who have done the 2.5-day Erase training, and then knowing that this work of being a white ally is ongoing. And so this was the next step. And so we were so thankful for, to Erase for developing this for us. We've heard about the awesome work of the Healing Whiteness. We've welcomed new awesome racial healing practitioners who are in Isaac, who are part of the Isaac family. I know Joan, also Juliana, and then also Vice Mayor Patrice, and I'm probably missing someone, so feel free to say your name if I'm missing new practitioners. And then also we've heard about the Healing Circle as well, which was awesome, and then the Summit on Trauma and Domestic Violence. And so our first pictures here, again, the Intro to Judaism taught by Rabbi Schicker, which was just a wonderful, wonderful time. 2-part course. We ate and fellowshipped beforehand, and then we went into our class. And after the sessions, the words that were lifted about Rabbi Schicker and her workshop were interesting, amazingly delightful, educational, informative, engaging, super. And so, and Rabbi Schicker was mentioned as being, and she is a wonderful and engaging teacher. And again, these are just photos from our time at Temple B'nai Israel. Also, Isaac TRHT, El Concilio, we were able to work together. There were a number of awesome leaders there for the Black and Brown Unity and Healing Weekend. Our presenters for that Friday were Dr. Martinez, who spoke at a banquet a few years back, and then also Dr. Michelle Johnson. And in the picture above, I think those are some of the facilitators and planners of this meeting. Just an awesome time. It was wonderful to hear, you know, folks say, and to be able to experience a space where it was just Black and brown folks, where there was love, where there was comfort, where we could talk, where we could be at peace, where we could fellowship. And that was just beautiful. And these are just more pictures as well. And a special thank you. Sorry, we had an event on Friday, and then we also had an awesome event on Saturday that was facilitated by Brother Ed. It was a racial healing circle, which was just awesome and powerful. And a special thank you to him, and also Lana Lewis and Adrian. And hopefully I'm getting everybody who was presenting and speaking. So thank you, and everyone who attended. And then these are just pictures again. And I believe we went over time, which was awesome. There was so much to talk about, which that was awesome. And we also had the Summit on Trauma and Domestic Violence, in which Isaac was a co-sponsor.
Okay, the Issues Convention was October 29. Besides the annual banquet, the Issues Convention is one of the largest Isaac groupings that brings together the community and our civic leaders. Over 200 people gathered on Tuesday night, October 29, and chose anti-racism, gun violence as Isaac's focus for the next 2 years, alongside the affordable housing and group violence intervention. You can see how much fun the crowd had building the Lovett community during this event. We actually took selfies there. You can see Toby and I, taking the selfies so that we could remember and memorialize this event. You can see all the people came on that night because they are passionate about the issues. The Issues Convention basically gives us an opportunity to see what is on the hearts of the people of Kalamazoo. We take the temperature on that day and we go and vote for the 3 issues that will be concerning Isaac over the next 2 years. As you heard before, the Housing Task Force was not voted for. It was voted to continue previously and approved by the Leadership Board. We were glad to have all these community leaders converge on that day and support their individual issues. You can see there all the kind of activities and the lobbying and the campaigning, all in a beloved way, until we come up with the issues that we now have at the moment. So if you have something that you want to be uplifted, the Issues Convention is the place to be. And the Issues Convention is also held strategically the October before the elections on a 2-year cycle. The idea is to get all the public officials who are canvassing for our votes to tell us what they stand for. And for us also to tell us what is on our hearts. So when they listen to our issues and we go to cast our votes, we do it well. Thank you.
Okay. And so we'll finish up with these slides here. So again, just at the Issues Convention, we have the GVI presentation. We have the education presentation. We have the gun violence prevention presentation. The anti-racism presentation. The anti-poverty presentation. Oops, I'm sorry, flipped too fast. And then this was just a few pictures of us voting our top priorities as we voted with our feet and we went to the issues that were chosen. So again, those were gun violence prevention, anti-racism, and then I think one of the groups, of course, is housing. So thank you. Now we're ready.
Okay. So next is our Isaac Family Breakfast, where we invite donors who have given throughout the year and who perhaps were also potential donors, but it's really a thank you to those who have donated to the work of Isaac. So a special thank you to all who were able to attend that Isaac Family Breakfast. And so these are some of the pictures from that breakfast, just so you know, those 2 beautiful people that were in the center there were Dr. Chalet's parents. So we want to grateful to them for having Dr. Chalet. These are just some of the speakers who spoke as well during that event.
Hi, everybody. I'm Toby Hannah Davies, and I'm very excited to, I'm very excited to talk about the endowment fund. Can you hear me okay? Okay. At the very end of 2019, our endowment fund was what the Kalamazoo Community Foundation calls fully established. That means that we had so many generous donors that we reached the required amount of $50,000 for it to become a fully established fund at the community and Kalamazoo Community Foundation. And we did that between December of 2017 and December of 2019. We had a good bit longer than that, but we did it in 2 years, way ahead of schedule. And we went way over the $50,000, over $57,000 in that 2-year time of raising money. Thank you so much to everybody who contributed. This is making Isaac's work so much more sustainable. And there's more good news about our endowment fund. We are the very first endowment fund at the Kalamazoo Community Foundation to choose to invest our money in socially responsible investment. It's a new option at the Community Foundation, and it's very important because it means that everything our money is invested in will be in alignment with our faith values. You can see the quote there that our interest that we invest in, the companies we invest in, have to meet a series of stringent environmental and social criteria, including environmental management, labor rights, human rights, health, safety, and diversity. So I want to thank you so much for everybody who was able to contribute so far or will be able to in the future. You're making our work sustainable for years to come. And in January of 2021, we will have access to the first time to the interest income from our $50,000 endowment. And we will be able to choose whether we want to save that interest income for something special, or use part of it, or use all of it. Whatever we choose, we can save it or use it. Thank you so much.
Okay, thank you, Toby. And again, thank you everyone for your generous giving that made the goal for that endowment, the reaching of that goal possible. Just want to recognize our grantors. We had amazing generosity given to us by our community this year to help the work of Isaac to continue. The Harold and Grace Upjohn Foundation, the Kalamazoo Community Foundation, the Irving S. Gilmore Foundation, Johnny Fetzer Memorial Trust, and Schwab Charitable for our grantors, our sponsors, again, Allegra and the Radisson Plaza Hotel and Suites. So just want to, we're not going to read these, but just want you to, as Dr. Davis flips through them, just to see how many amazing donors Isaac has that contribute to the work that we do. And if you're on, thank you to everyone, but especially if you're on this Zoom call, thank you so much for being a generous donor. If you're a GEM, that stands for Give Every Month, we are so grateful for your continued giving, and just everyone who has given to the work of Isaac. Thank you so very much. And obviously some of our endowment donors, those who have given to the endowment that Toby just talked about. Thank you again for your generosity in giving to that endowment. Okay, so just a little bit quickly, just the 2019 revenue, just so you can kind of see where our money is coming from. 47% of our funding comes from, it's coming from grants. And so we are grateful to those grants that we have received. 6% from contracts, merchandise, and other things. Individual contributions make up 18% of our revenue. Our annual events and fundraising make up 23% of our revenue. And then that yellow is our membership dues, and that makes up about 6% of our revenue. So that's kind of a breakdown of where our revenue comes from. So we are grateful for all our streams of revenue, and we look forward to really expanding in different areas to even strengthen our organization even more. Our expenses, operations, there to the right, the big blue portion is 52% of the expenses, just the operation of what we have to do. The next one to the left there is office and communications is 5% of our budget. The next gray area there is our contractual services and organization development. That is 11% of our budget. Then the yellow there are task forces, events, and resident engagement is 12% of our expenses. Workshops and training there, 8%. Our banquet and fundraising, 11%. And then dues and other just make up 1% of our expenses. So that is a breakdown of our revenue and expenses. As always, we typically will do this at our leadership board meeting that many of you are not able to attend, or because of other obligations aren't able to attend. But we certainly want to recognize all of those who've worked so tirelessly throughout the year in the work that we do. But then again, especially to much of the stuff that we just that we're seeing in this presentation tonight. So Amy, who I know is on the Zoom call, we want to thank Amy Peterson and Rick Johnson, who have taken most of these beautiful photos that you have seen. And so Amy is one who typically works on our banquet books and things like that, and does an amazing job. So we want to recognize both Amy and Rick for the beautiful photos that you have taken. If you've gone to any of our events and eaten, that's typically probably have been catered by Davis Delectables. They were the ones who provided our delicious food for almost all of our events. And so we want to thank them for their delicious meals. And Caleb, for creating this awesome PowerPoint presentation for our annual meeting. And so we are grateful to Caleb for his amazing work and want to say thank you. And we want to think he's working tonight, but I just want to take a moment. It's not on your screen, but I'll take presidential liberties at this time. I just want to recognize our leadership board, all those who serve, the representatives on our leadership board. Thank you for your leadership throughout the year. Our executive committee, who has tirelessly worked throughout the year, all those who are members of the executive committee, thank you for your continued service through Isaac to our community. And I just want to take a moment to recognize what I feel, and I'm sure so many people would concur, that we have the most amazing, gifted, talented, devoted, and dedicated executive director that there could be. So we want to recognize the work of our own Dr. Shalay Davis and all that she has given to Isaac and to the Kalamazoo community. And so we are grateful and thankful for the blessing that she has been to Isaac and to our community. So Dr. Shalay, we thank you for being such an amazing person and making our community better than it was before you came. And so we thank you for your tireless work.
My one comment is, this is a better meeting than I've ever had, even when we sat together.
That is funny.
I don't know if that's good or bad.
I know.
Unmute it to say hello, everybody.
Hello, Miss Cordelia.